we are continuing on with my Mature Beginner series. If you haven't seen the first two videos, they cover eyes, and I'll post the first one right here. As I said in my first video, this is a series designed for mature beginners or women who are mature. They used to wear makeup, they stopped wearing makeup, they came back to wearing makeup, and nothing worked. Nothing that they used to do was appropriate anymore because our skin changes, our eyes change. Everything changes as we grow older. However, you don't necessarily have to be mature to benefit from many of the things that I'm speaking about. So whether you're a mature beginner or a young beginner or someone who lapsed and came back, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about foundation. I think foundation is the foundation. Do you know what I mean? It's like the foundation for a house. It's like your foundation pieces, your bra, your panties, your Skims, whatever it is that you wear. If you have beautiful looking skin, I feel that you're 80% there, maybe even 90% there, but it's so hard to find the right foundation. So today we're just going to talk about how to find the right foundation. What are the things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking for a foundation? And I implore you to just be patient with the process. It's not easy. You may look out and find the perfect foundation after trying one, but there's a very good chance you're going to try 5 or 10 before you hit upon the foundation that really makes you happy and does what you want it to do. So let's break this down into 4 categories. That is color, coverage, finish, and wear. Those are the things that you need to consider when you're looking for a new foundation or a foundation. And we're going to assume that what we want when we're wearing makeup is to look natural. Not necessarily a no makeup look, but you want people to say your skin looks beautiful rather than your makeup looks beautiful. To me, mature women kind of fall into 3 categories when it comes to makeup. Either they're not wearing any, or they're not wearing enough, or they're wearing too much. And too much really isn't as frequent as the first 2. There has to be a happy balance. When I say not enough, I mean they're doing some mascara and maybe a lip gloss, or maybe they're doing their brows and a little bit of liner, but they're missing the foundation. And I kind of understand it, you guys, because foundation is so hard to get right, and if you don't get it right, you're frustrated. I implore you, be patient. I'm going to keep on saying that. Be patient. Let's talk about color. If you have the wrong color on, there is no way it's not going to look like makeup. It could be the most beautiful foundation in the world, but it 100% is going to look like makeup because the color is wrong. And the eye perceives it. They look at you and they think, something is up here. I think this is your biggest challenge, not only because your color is hard to find, but once you find your color in a certain brand, they may not have a coverage that you want, a wear that you want, or a finish that you're looking for. You may find a brand that only has one foundation. A newer brand might only have one foundation, but brands that have been around for a while generally have a couple to choose from. So for instance, I find Dior 2N works pretty well for me, so I know I can choose from several things from Dior if I want to. I've often felt that if my foundation is a little too light or a little too dark, I can get away with it if the undertone is right. If it's a little too light, I can bronze it up. If it's a little too dark, I can kind of highlight around here and here and here, and the darkness will look a little bit more like bronzer, and I'll be able to get away with it. For me personally, for many years, I wore foundation that was too light. I believed I was lighter than I am, largely because I was looking at, hello, my arms. They're very, very light. Or I was looking at the backs of my hands, which are light and kind of pinkish. Especially this hand is a little more pink than this hand. When you're looking for the right color, it's incredibly important to get samples. You're going to have to get some samples. Don't spend the money until you find the right thing. And when you get samples, check in different lights. The lighting in this room is different than the lighting in the bathroom. Faces a different direction, which is different than the lighting in the living room. And check different times of day. Sometimes something that looks great here in the living room, I can tell there's something off about it. Oftentimes in darker rooms you can really see when something's off. So I highly recommend, don't get crazy about something that looks good in your bathroom if it doesn't look so good in your bedroom, for instance. You're going to have to, if you really want to find the right shade, look around at different kinds of light. I wouldn't suggest that you get in direct sunlight, but diffuse sunlight. For instance, there's an eaves over here at this door. I'm not going to stand in the sun and look at the color, but I'll stand by the eaves, under the eaves, and get very, very close to natural color, because the sun has a blue hue to it. The natural sunlight is bluish, and that will change what it's looking like on your face. Now, Sephora has an in-store matching tool. I can't remember what it's called, and it's a good start, but it's not end-all be-all. Now, I have moles on my face, which you probably can't see right now because I've covered them pretty well with my foundation. But the scanner they put on 3 different areas of your face, and the computer doesn't read, oh, that's a mole, I'm going to take that out of the equation. It puts all the colors into its equation and, you know, shakes it up and comes out with, hi, this is your color. I find that that scanner that they have in store tends to give me foundations that are 2 or 3 shades or 4 shades, quite a bit darker than I am. But it might work for you, especially if you don't have moles and if you have pretty clear skin. You have to do that without any makeup so you can get a real skin-like match. And just like my moles make everything darker, if you have rosacea, if you have melasma, if you have sun damage, and they're taking a scan, like I have sun damage here, if they take a scan right here, hi, they're taking that into the equation. I don't want to match my sun damage or my redness, I want to cover it. If you're really lucky, at your Sephora, there might be someone who is really a bit of a savant when it comes to finding shades. In the many years I've been going to Sephora's and Ulta's and whatnot, I think maybe twice I've run into somebody who is really spot on and very good with seeing what people's shades are and what will look good on them. Again, this is why you're going to have to try a lot of things on, because you may not find that savant in your store. Another thing that's very helpful, is there a salesperson that has a skin tone like yours? This has, again, years and years and years. It's only been recently that I noticed a woman in the store and I thought, our skin tone might be a different depth of tone, but our undertone is spot on. And we have a little chit chat, and it's interesting because a foundation that I like, the Dior in 2N, she said, oh, I can't do that. And a couple of months later, she said, you know, I tried that and it's great. So if you can find a salesperson, they're going to give you their personal experience, because poor salespeople have to wear makeup, and they're trying a lot of it on. I know I'm talking a lot about Sephora. Nordstrom's also gives sample. The difference is, at Nordstrom's, you're getting the samples at each individual brand, and that salesperson wants you to buy, and sometimes they can be a little aggressive. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're lovely and they'll give you 2 or 3 samples and you can move on to somebody else. At Sephora, because they don't have people who rep brands, they are there for the whole store, you're not going to get that pressure. Don't succumb to the pressure and get yourself some samples. Ulta does not give samples. Also, when you buy foundations, it's really not a Sephora video, but when you buy a foundation at Sephora online, there's a little area, I think it's above all the swatches, that says find my shade. You hit that, and I find this tool works very well. You put in 1 or 2 or 3 shades that work for you, and they'll tell you in this particular line that you're looking at what the shade match is, and they'll also tell you there's not a shade match for you, which I really, really appreciate. And the bad news is you first have to have at least 1 foundation shade that works for you, and the shades you have to choose from are not, to my recollection, only products they sell there. So if you have a foundation from a company that they don't sell, it might be in the list that they have for you to choose from. It's a fantastic starting point. And finally, be flexible. Get shades that are lighter than you think you are, and get shades that are darker than you think you are. Not by a lot. We're looking for success, not for failure. But you might be like me, where I was going really light for many, many years, when in fact, I'm not light, I'm light medium. Here's another frustrating thing. To some companies, light medium is quite dark, or it's quite light. Everybody has a different scale, but you have to start somewhere. Are you fair? Are you light? Are you light medium? Are you medium? Etc. Go a little bit outside where you think, because you might find your happy place a little darker than you think you are, or a little lighter than you think you are. Also keep in mind, there's a very good chance that, like me, your chest and your face are not the same color, and my shoulders are not the same color. I have a lot of redness, even on my neck, which I think is vascularity. This is sun damage. This is sun too, from going sleeveless so much. In fact, I have a lot of redness all up here until right above my nipples, and then everything is, you know, not red. What you want to do is present a harmony between your foundation, your arms, and your chest. Now in my case, my redness is quite a lot, and I did put on a light coating of the Dior Face and Body so I wouldn't get my shirt dirty, to kind of get rid of that redness, because I think it's very, very distracting, and I also don't like it. Does my face match my chest? No, but there's a harmony there. And that's something you may have to go with. You may not have redness on your body. You may not have to worry about matching this to this. I wouldn't try to match your neck. Your neck tends to be the lightest area, especially right under here. Your chin is a natural umbrella. So don't try to match this. It's just going to look odd when you put it all together and you show your chest and you show your arms. Now let's move on to undertone. All right, undertone. As I said earlier, I feel like if I got my undertone right, my depth of tone doesn't matter as much. But undertone is very tricky. A lot of women have a hard time understanding what their undertone is, as did I. It took me years to figure out my undertone, and that is partially because salespeople were telling me I have a pink undertone, because I have broken capillaries on my cheeks. Broken capillaries, or rosacea, that's not an undertone, that's a condition. Your undertone is under that. So they kept on giving me something that is yellow to counteract it, and I looked stupid. I looked like there was no harmony from here to here. Or they would give me something pink, and I looked like I was dead. I did notice that yellow undertones tend to be brighter on me and make me look good and healthy. And that was a clue for me that I might actually have a yellow undertone. And in fact, I do. If you look right here, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but this area where I have no redness and no sun damage, it's quite light, yes, but this isn't yellow undertone. However, most companies have yellow undertones. They're very yellow, and that's when I look stupid comes in. So for me, I like to go for neutral, and I can just work from there. Neutral should be a balance between pink and yellow, but for some companies it means the absence of pink and yellow, and I look gray. And there's olive. Olive can be very difficult because it's often in darker skins, Latino skins, not so much in Caucasian skins, but it can be, especially women who are very light, oftentimes have an olive undertone. And thankfully, in the last couple of years, I've noticed a lot of brands are starting to come out with more olive undertones for lighter skin. How do you know what your undertone is? Look again at different areas. Don't just look at your face. If you have melasma, if you have sun damage, if you have redness, rosacea, or broken capillaries, you're going to have a hard time figuring out looking at your face. And by the way, if you wear sunscreen, you're also going to have a hard time figuring it out, because my face is so much lighter than everything else, save for my arms and my hands. That kind of throws me for a loop a little bit too. So again, for me, I can see the yellow right here. Also, like the back of the shoulder right here. The shoulder where there's no redness right here. And I most definitely see yellow, but I personally prefer a neutral foundation. because, as I said, most yellow foundations are too yellow. A fantastic way for you to tell, besides looking at different areas of your upper body. Don't look at your legs. It might be a little bit different. Just look at your inner arms. So I'm not sure that you will be able to see this and how it will interpret, but the veins in your arms reveal a lot about your undertone, because it is, if there's no skin here, it's a certain color, and then when you put the skin over, it will turn color. So if your veins look green, you have a yellow undertone, and if they are blue, you have a pink undertone. If you can't tell, is it green or is it blue, you're neutral. You have both. We all have both, but it's what is prominent. For me, sometimes they look green, and sometimes I'm like, well, what color is that? They're definitely not blue, so I know I don't have a pink undertone, but I think I could, on my arms anyway, be kind of neutral. And again, your monitor, my camera, it might not look like that, but it's not blue. So that's a great way for you to go about figuring out what your undertone is. Every line is a little bit different, and again, I'm going to say, this requires patience. Don't get too frustrated. Every time you go to Sephora, pick up 2 or 3 samples, play with them for 2 or 3 days, different kind of lighting conditions, and take notes. Okay, let's move on. Now when you get your samples, I highly recommend you do your application first on one side of your face. Take a look. What does this look like compared to what this looks like? How is this working with down here, the chest, or the top of the shoulders? And take notes. Just jot it down. You can wait until you finish, do the other side of your face, maybe continue on with your makeup, and then write some notes. What were your initial thoughts? If you can, partway through the day, take a look and take notes again. Has this turned a different color than the color you saw in the morning? Does it seem a little bit warm? Did it get a little bit orange? Make note of it. And do know this, when you first put it on your face, it's wet. Just like wet paint, it will get darker as it dries down. That's different than oxidation, where it gets warmer. And it's not just after it dries down, it continues to get warmer. So by the end of the day, you might feel like you look quite orange. That is something you want to avoid, and that would go on your no thank you list. The other 2 things you want to take note of is, how does it feel on your skin? Do you feel greasy? Does your skin feel tight? Always use the same sunscreen when you're doing this, so there's not, well, was it my sunscreen that did it to me, or was it the foundation? Just like when I do my sunscreen reviews, I always use the same foundation, so I know if there's a problem, it's not the foundation. Same thing here. Take note of what it feels like and what it looks like. And the reason you want to do that is, if you're going to be trying 5 or 15 different things, it's all going to be a blur, and all you're going to remember are the ones that fall under hell no, and yeah, I like this. And there might be something else that you're missing some good points because you forgot. Just take notes. I know that I wish that I had many times that I've tried things. So we just talked about things that went really orange, right? I think that kind of segues into coverage. What kind of coverage do you want? The less coverage you have in a foundation, the more off the color can be. The more full your foundation, the better the color has to be. You can't get away with something that's too pink, too warm, too olive, too dark, too light. It's just going to make you look a little bit crazy, and it's definitely going to make you look makeup-y. No matter how beautiful it lies on the skin, the wrong color makes you look makeup-y. I remember years ago watching a Tati video, and I was like, whoa, when, you know, it started, I'm like, what's going on here? There's something wrong. That's what I mean, the eye notices. She was wearing a foundation clearly 5 or 6 too deep for her, 5 or 6 shades too deep for her. Now she got her ears and she got under the neck, so you weren't really seeing it, but you knew something was wrong. And I think part of what was wrong actually was she put it under the neck, and as I said before, most people are quite light under the neck. So if you're doing something very, very dark and you put that under the neck, it just doesn't read right. People recognize it. It looks makeup-y. So how much coverage do you want or need? And they could be two different things. Do you have redness? Do you have broken capillaries? Do you have rosacea? Do you have acne? Do you have scarring? Do you have sunspots? Do you have sun damage? Do you have melasma? You are going to be wanting some deeper coverage, at least light medium and maybe close to full. But if you don't, and you just need a little something to lift your skin, to help with dullness or to help with sallowness, something light will do very well for you. I suggest that when you go get your samples, once again, I asked you to consider getting something that you think might be too light and too dark, because you could be perceiving yourself differently than you are. Most of us do. Same thing with what kind of coverage do you think you want, and then try something a step up or a step down. If you think you need full coverage, get a full coverage sample, and then get something that is less than full coverage. Not sheer, but the next step down. If you think you want a tint, get a tint, and also try something that's light medium, just to see. You might surprise yourself. And when you're looking, you want to be diligent, of course, but you also want to be open-minded about what is really going to work for you. And don't be married to the idea of, I need full coverage and I am this shade. Now I will say, for mature women specifically, I would not recommend a full coverage foundation because they don't lie on the face too well. For instance, you'll see a lot of younger YouTubers put concealer basically all over their face, but concealer, generally, not all of them, are pretty thick. And when I look in a magnifying glass after I've done something like that, I think, the weight is too heavy and it accentuates my pores. If you have scarring, it will likely accentuate that because it will cling. It would be much better for you to go a little bit less than full coverage. Now let's talk about finishes, you guys. Sometimes I feel that companies have different names for the same thing, so I'm just going to go over a few. We have matte. Let's start with matte. Matte is generally full coverage or very strong medium coverage, and matte has a tendency to oxidize. Not all mattes oxidize, it's true, but a lot of mattes do. It's not my preference, but I know that women who have scarring or texture on their skin, they don't like things that are more radiant because it accentuates that. The light kind of reflects off of it, and you can see every little bump, every little scar, every little wrinkle. So I understand that. But full matte is difficult to find a good formula that doesn't oxidize. I have a few that I like that are not 100% full coverage, but they're very strong medium. The PEAU Radiant Cream. In fact, I'm not here to talk about foundations, but I will list in the description box below things that I like for certain categories that you might want to start with. And I'll also list what their pros and cons are. For instance, the PEAU doesn't have anything neutral. It's either cool or warm, even though a PEAU salesperson will tell you the one that starts with B is actually beige. It's not. It's cool. Women with oily skin, and mature women absolutely can have oily skin, tend to be attracted to the matte. And if you find a matte that doesn't oxidize, great, but there are other ways to control oil rather than going for a matte foundation, which might actually be drying. And it's tricky for oily skin because your skin has little brains, right? If you put alcohol over your face and you just take off all that oil, your skin's going to say, oh my goodness, we're dry, produce more oil, and it makes it worse. The same thing, you put on a matte primer and you put on a matte foundation, and your skin might say, oh my goodness, we're so dry, let's make more oil. It's quite a balance. If you're oily, what you might want to do is a good primer and then not a matte, but something like skin-like finish instead. Now, natural finish is very popular, and the idea behind natural finish is what your skin looks like 15 minutes after you wash it, where there's a little bit of sheen to it, but it's not shiny. But again, every brand natural could mean different things. Then there's luminous. Luminous to me doesn't mean shiny so much as it means there's a bit of a glow that looks like it's coming from within, and that is often done with mica. Too much mica, you look like a tin man, but when you have the right amount of mica, I think it's absolutely stunning. And there's also luminous matte, and that I see a lot of too. And I do believe the luminous matte are mattes that have that mica. So you're not looking oily, but you still have some kind of luminosity going on. And then there's glowy. And glowy, think of glass skin. And that can look so beautiful on so many people. And I happen to really like it on myself. But now that my forehead lines are finally making themselves known, I'm liking it on myself a little bit less. I don't have enlarged pores or scars, so that's not a concern for me. But if I have been eating a lot of salt, I'll get this puffiness right here. I mean, I do have a little puffiness right here. And when you're wearing something super shiny, it accentuates like a puff right here or something right here. Contours of your face that aren't contours from your structure show more when you're wearing something glowy. I'm still for it though. I still love it. And what I might do is just powder the forehead because I don't want to be super shiny there, and I don't want to be super shiny here because it emphasizes these, and I cannot pronounce what this is. So here and here, I don't want to be that shiny. Over here, I don't mind so much. The last subject is wear. In the past couple of years, I have noticed some extraordinary claims coming from companies. 24-hour wear foundation, and I think I've seen 48-hour wear foundation. I don't know who is awake for 48 hours, and while they're awake, they have to look so good that their foundation is lasting that long. I don't think I want to know. It's a weird claim. These usually have a lot of alcohol in them, you guys. That's how it adheres to the skin for such a long time. And I'm not a fan of alcohol in foundation. I have made exceptions in the past for things that are very specific, like the Dior Face and Body, which will allow me to wear a white shirt, put some foundation here, and not worry that it's going to get on my shirt. Or something like the House Labs Triclone, which is beautiful, beautiful, but it has some alcohol in it. So it's not something I wear every day, but when I really want to look great, I'm going to go for that. But if you want 24-hour wear every day, it can be damaging to your skin. If you have sensitive skin, it can cause some inflammation, and I wouldn't really recommend it for anybody, no matter what their skin type, especially when it's high up. When it's after the halfway mark, okay, you're doing a little bit better. Now, if you work 12-hour shifts, you are a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse, and you want to look kind of decent, I get it. You're going to need 14-hour wear. Maybe not 24-hour, but you know, residents, I guess, would need 24-hour. They'll be taking naps and getting up again. Lawyers oftentimes put in 70-hour weeks. They're working 12+ hour days. And if you are a woman who's working away, it's 8 o'clock at night, and someone calls you and says, client dinner in 10 minutes, you don't want to reapply your foundation. In fact, reapplying foundation can really make a mess. So you do want something that's long wear and going to look good for hours, just in case. It's funny, you know, Harrison Ford can take off his shirt and wash his armpits with, you know, bottled water, and that's fine. But Melanie Griffith knows that you have to look your best all the time, that's not appropriate for a woman. And I think in the workplace, it's true. We're just expected to be, we need to look like nothing is bothering us. That old saying, never let them see you sweat, that applies really, really, I think, for women in the workplace, to all of us. Me, when I worked in an office, it was very interesting. When I was wearing the foundation that I loved so much before it was discontinued, I would go in the bathroom and think, oh God, kind of a mess. And I would just kind of pat everything down, and it was fine. maybe that's just my skin. And I did have occasion where, okay, it's 7 o'clock at night and oh, now we all have to go out to this, and I kind of don't want my mascara under here. And honestly, for me, it wasn't my foundation that was a problem. It was my mascaras have, right down here, the raccoon eyes. They've improved so much. I also think that the idea of wear, when it comes to foundation, they either say it's long wear or they don't. No one says medium wear. You know what I mean? When they're marketing it, it's either long wear or it's not. And how long it lasts on you could have a lot to do with your skin or your skincare, or do you powder afterwards? Do you use a primer that helps to cling everything, to attach everything to your skin? Or do you use a setting spray that is made not for dissolving the powders that you put on, but made to hold everything in? And you can play with any of those. I would recommend that you start with powder. Get yourself a translucent powder, a real translucent powder. I love my By Terry. It's white. When you put it on the face, sheerly, it doesn't impart anything, so it's not changing the color of your foundation, and that can help your longevity quite a bit. If that doesn't work, then you might want to look at primers, and finally the setting sprays. They're chock full of alcohol, so that for me is the last choice. And you guys, I think that's about it. I feel like that's probably a lot of information, but it's really, really simple. It is color, coverage, finish, and wear. But color, the most important thing, undertone and depth of tone. And yes, you're going to have to go out and get some samples and try things on. And I hope that was helpful, you guys. I really do. I wish I had somebody explain all this to me, and I know I was frustrated literally for years. How many foundations did I buy that were not the right color for me? Wear was never really an issue, and I would never finish them. I would wear them initially, I'd think, oh, I love this, and then after a week I'm thinking, I don't think this is actually a good color for me, and I might finish half the bottle, but I never finished anything. Where the foundation that they discontinued, I repurchased that several times. I wish somebody was out there to tell me to relax, not get frustrated, understand it's going to be a process and you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs, but instead I just felt kind of desperate. And by the way, I was about 35 when this happened, and they're making a lot more foundations now. They're making a lot better formulas now. They're making so many different colors and undertones now. So we do have a lot to choose from, which makes me feel encouraged. I believe there is a color out there for you. It might not be at every single line. Some lines, for me, I'm never going to touch them again. I tried, I saw, I conquered. I know what their thing is until they come out with new shades. I'm not going to ever go Rare Beauty, for instance. Everything's orange. I'm not orange. Everything she released after that, I thought maybe this is her opportunity to do something more neutral. No, she missed that opportunity, so that's not a brand I'm going to go near. And you'll find that too. So yeah, that's it. I hope it was helpful. I hope you come back again. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know if you've taken any of this advice, you know, a week from now or 2 weeks from now. I would love to hear if it helped you find the right foundation for you to make you feel great and confident and beautiful, because that's what it's all about. And until we meet again, be safe and smart, and I'm wishing you good health.